Thank you. Beautiful people of Aarhus, the true capital of Denmark. Yeah, that's right. We all know. We all secretly know. I'm getting used to living in Denmark. There's a lot of traditions that I'm getting used to, like hiding from a company called DR. It's very traditional. It starts by getting a letter in the post. It's a bit like getting a geggebrev. And on it stands D and R. And you go, this one goes in the bin. DR, direct rubbish. And you can throw it away. So many traditional things, like fastelavn. That's great. We banned animal cruelty years ago in England, but here in Denmark, it's going strong. You put a cat in a barrel, you beat it with a stick, everybody dresses like it's Halloween, it's awesome. The only thing that confused me about fastelavn was that the song that the children were singing, it was very graphic. Bolle mig op. Bolle mig ned. Bolle mig i munden. Bolle mig i røven. Hvis jeg har en tissekone, du kan godt bolle mig der også. So many traditions, so many free things here in Denmark. I think that's fantastic. Give me a clap if you used the free education here in Denmark. Yeah. Education getting some cheers. Some people in the corner over there not clapping. Maybe they're from Randers. So many free things. Free doctors and hospitals. Give me a clap if you've used them. Nice, nice. Lots of sick people here in Aarhus. That's nice to see. So many free things. I live in communal housing, and in the basement of our building is a laundry room, and on the wall is a sign that says "Glemt tøj," free clothes. That's fantastic. And sometimes there's free clothes on the washing line, already clean for you. It's great. So many traditions I'm getting used to. I think that it's fantastic that there are job opportunities for mentally disabled people. All over the world, these people are forgotten about. But here in Denmark, you have Joe and the Juice. And I think that's fantastic. Fantastic. Denmark used to be the happiest country in the world. I love how humble Danes are. Yes. We were the happiest country. That's a pretty fucking big achievement. That's a lot. There's a lot of countries out there. Here's the thing though, it was one of the happiest countries in the world, but it also had one of the highest suicide rates. So it makes sense that it was one of the happiest countries if all the depressed people are dead. So much trust here in Denmark as well, that's fantastic. Before I came here, people said to me, you know, they're so trusting in Denmark that they don't even lock their doors. And I thought, that is amazing. That's fantastic. I won't need to buy anything. That's awesome. Did you know that if you fly the Danish flag after sunset, you fly the flag for Satan? I love asking Danish people about this. Oh, I think with flag and Satan. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we know about that. That's fucking crazy. It's not, please don't fly the Danish flag at night because nobody can see it. No, you fly the flag for the Dark Prince. That's fine. It's really nuts. And here's the thing. You can't fly the regular Dannebrog at nighttime, but you can fly the Wimpel. There's kind of the skinny Dannebrog. So you can't fly the normal Danish flag unless it has anorexia. Then it's fine. Then it's completely fine. Lots of things here in Denmark are different to my home country of Great Britain. Lots of things are different, but some things are completely the same, like the weather. I just call it the grey. You know, when the roads and the building and the sky is just all the same colour. You know that feeling? Yeah. People say to me, have you seen 50 Shades of Grey? Yeah, every time I look out the fucking window. Yes, I have. I have white blinds in my apartment, and sometimes I can't tell whether they're open or closed. And when I do open them, it gets darker inside my apartment. Danes in the room, give me a clap. Strong, meaty, biking claps, I like that. And give me a clap if you're international. Woo, nice. Little international hygge crew at the back there. It's nice. And where are you from, sir? America, oh, wow, okay. Welcome. And your friends, are they also internationals? Yes. He suddenly pretends that he knows them. Oh, this guy, yes. Are you also from the United States, sir? You're from Mexico, and where are you from? You're from here, and you're all friends? And this guy? And where are you from, sir? Estonia. Wow, that is quite a trip. You guys should form a band or something. That's amazing. That's awesome. That's really cool. I come from the UK, and I'm in a weird position as an international living here because Danish people still feel like they can bitch to me about immigrants. Like I was with this Danish lady in a bar, and she turned to me and she said, "Conrad, these fucking immigrants." I was like, yeah, coming over here, not learning the language. It's a weird situation for me because I haven't learned Danish. All I've gotten good at is pretending that I can understand what Danish people are saying. You know, when you just master the, yeah. Like they have no idea that I have no idea what they're snackering about. Like one time I'm going into a club and the doorman was standing there and he said, "Du kan ikke come in." And then he said something else in Danish. And I didn't understand what he said, so I was just like, "Tusind tak," and then I just kind of walked past him. And what he was telling me was that the club was full, but I didn't give a fuck, I just went past him. But here's the thing, I'm really lucky that he didn't say something else. Can you imagine, I go up to the door and he was like, "Nej, du kan ikke come in, det brænder." Tusind tak. I've gotten good at pretending how to speak Danish, but I've also gotten good at directly translating from Danish into English. And if you directly translate from Danish into English, you sound like a king from the 17th century. It's true. Jeg kan godt lide det. I can good like that. Det må du gerne. It may you please. De er i orden. It is in the order. And my personal favorite, helt sikkert. Absolutely, probably. There's no better reason to learn the Danish language than the swearing. In English, it's always so obvious. Piss, shit, fuck. In Danish, it gets satanic. For helvede, man. Satans. You can actually say, "Det er fandme lækkert." It is the devil with delicious. How fucking good is your persilla sauce that it is the devil with delicious? Those are the same people that fly their flags at nighttime. Best swearing I ever heard happened to me here in Denmark in a place called IKEA. They sell 5 kroner hot dogs in IKEA. 5 kroner. What is in those sausages? It must just be pig anus. I just imagine that there's a pig killing factory somewhere in Midtjylland. There's a big guy with a beard called Jeppe. And he has a big fucking knife and they bring in the pigs and he cuts off all the good shit, cuts off the flæskesvær, puts that all ready for the supermarkets, looks down at what's left, the anus, puts it in the IKEA bucket. I'm standing in the queue in IKEA and the guy in front of me, he turns around and the sausage falls out of his hot dog onto the floor. And he says, "Kraft æder mig," which means cancer eat me. That's aggressive. If you were walking down the street and you saw 5 kroner on the floor, you wouldn't bend down and pick that up. This guy dropped a 5 kroner pig anus hot dog, and now he wants to die of cancer. Did you know, after the Second World War, there were a group of Nazis who stayed here in Denmark, and they opened a company called DSB. Yeah. And if you're not a 17th century monarch and you can't afford the DSB, you can take the bus. Give me a clap if you're a bus person. Ooh, strong claps. People at the front row got here early. Makes a lot of sense. I've had a fantastic idea. It's how to take the bus for free forever. International people's ears picking up. All right, I'm listening. Dress as a bus inspector. It's fucking genius. Just dress as a bus inspector. My idea, go on eBay, grab one of these uniforms, sit on there. The bus inspector actual people get on, just stand up, use your best Danish. Hej alle sammen. Jeg har lige tjekket alle mennesker her. Jeg skal hoppe af, go riser. They'll never know. Thought my idea was bulletproof, and then I'm sitting on 4A, and bus inspectors get on. And this is how fucking hoogly and trusting Denmark is. The bus inspectors had riser courts, and they checked in on the bus. What? I love you, Denmark. That's amazing. Throws my plan completely out of the window. And I love the idea that those bus inspectors get on, and then another group of bus inspectors get on, start checking everybody, go up to the first bus inspectors like, oh, du har glemt at check in. Oh, nej. Did you know there are only 3 hills in all of Denmark, and Aarhus is built on all of them? One of the flattest countries in the fucking world, and we live here. They built this city here on a thing called Randersvej. What? It's a 90-degree cliff of hatred and evil. And it goes to fucking Randers. That's how bad it is. And here's the thing in Denmark, the wind in Denmark, wherever you're walking, is always like this. It's always like this. Okay, I'm exaggerating. Sometimes it's like this, but usually it's like this. And crazy shit starts to happen. You're walking up, let's say how bad your life is. You're walking up Randersvej and the wind is like this. And then you look over on the other side of the road and there's a woman walking down the road and the wind is like this. And then you look up and the Wimpel is going this way. What the fuck is going on? If you really want to torture yourself, you can cycle up Randersvej. Give me a clap if you're a cycle person, a bicycle person. Some strong caps, some people just kind of recovering. I find it a bit of a dilemma cycling in the city because sometimes I stop and I just need to go in for a quick set. You know, you park at McDonald's, you think, I'll just run in there and get a burger. It won't take very long, take a couple of minutes. Do I really need to lock my bicycle? And then I remember how I got my bicycle. And I lock my fucking bicycle. Did you know Danish people don't have sex the same way that other people do? It's true. Danish people are very, very pure, and that act that we're all thinking about, very animalistic. For dirty, filthy heathens, Satan worshippers. Danes are much more hoogly than that. This is how Danish people are created. You get 2 Danish people, and what happens when you put 2 Danish people next to each other? They start snackering. Yeah, so they start snackering, and what happens? It gets hoogly. And the more they snacker, the more hoogly that it gets, and it creates a vortex. And out of that vortex comes a new Danish person. And they go through fitness world, and they enter society. Yeah, that's how Danish people are made. My favorite thing to do here in Denmark is buy milk. Because buying milk here in Denmark is very hoogly. In England, it's really boring. Skimmed milk, semi-skimmed milk. Here in Denmark, no, mini milk. Oh, nej. Let milk, easy milk, no. No, det er sødmælk. Oh. My favorite can of milk, nuclear milk, yeah. But I can't even buy my nuclear milk because I'm so distracted by Danish people. Because Danish people are so beautiful. They are. You walk out, I open my front door, bang, everybody's extremely beautiful. I'm trying to walk to the supermarket, I'm getting distracted by all the beautiful people. I think I'll look up and away to stop having to look at them. I look up into the buildings, and in the windows are more beautiful Danish people. I know what some of you are thinking. Conrad, you're exaggerating how beautiful Danish people are. Have you been to England? Most people look like a pig in a human costume. And cats, female cats can be pregnant with multiple kittens from multiple fathers at the same time. That's true. Cats are the English girls of the animal kingdom. So all I wanted to do was buy my nuclear milk. I'm getting distracted by all the beautiful Danish people. So I thought to myself, I have to go to a place where I won't get distracted by beautiful Danish people. So I went to an AGF football game. Yeah. I go and meet my friend Halvor, and I'm running a little bit late. I arrive about 15 minutes late. I'm like, Halvor, I'm so sorry. We're not going to get any good seats. And he looks at me and he just starts laughing. Because we walk into the football stadium and it's almost completely empty. That day, the team were playing another team called Aalborg, which means Eel Castle. There were 5 people from Eel Castle who came to that game. 5 people, and they weren't even sitting together. I love the idea of a guy sitting there. I love you, Aalborg, but fuck you, Cern. There was a moment during the football match where one of the players, he kicked the ball a little bit the wrong way. And from behind me, somebody shouted, "Din more, et en fucking lure." Turned around, there was a 7-year-old boy sitting behind me. Half-time came around, and Halvor turns to me and he says, "Dude, we should get something very traditional. We should get a stadion platter." I was like, "Ooh, stadion platter. Sounds French." I was thinking about foie gras, caviar. No, massive pulsar. A very enormous pulsar. And standing there to go and get the stadion platter, I realized that even at that AGF game, there was one beautiful person. The girl working the grill. She was. I was looking at her and I was thinking, why is that Dronning Margrethe woman on the money? You should put you on there. Because only in Denmark can somebody that beautiful serve pig anus to fat people. I was hanging out with Halvor the other day, and he was snakkeren dansk on the internet. Danish people can do that as well. They snakker dansk over the internet. He wrote to somebody, sandsynlighedsberegning. Whoa. Spelled it correctly and everything. It was amazing. I love that word. It sounds like a little poem. Sandsynlighedsberegning. At one point, he's snakkering with a Danish person online, and he writes PGA. And I said to him, "What's that?" And he said, "Oh, it means på grund af, because of." And I was like, "That's amazing. Danish people can snakke PGA in their sentences." So we say to somebody, "Hvorfor har du en baseball cap på?" PGA, jeg er en gangster. Oh. And then he writes BLA, bland animal. Whoa. Among other things. That's so cool. And then he was just showing off. He wrote BFS, bar for show. I was like, that's so cool, man. Like you could say to somebody, "Hvorfor har du dræbt min mormor?" PGA, BLA, BFS. So many things that I love to say in Danish. They're just so much fun. I love the word åbenbart. Oh, that's a satisfying word to say. Åbenbart, yeah. That Bart is Auburn, yeah. It's like eating a full meal. You feel really, really good. I say it all the time, have absolutely no idea what it means. I was in the supermarket the other day and the lady said to me, "Vil du ha bondmel?" And I said, "Illy mol." It's just fun to say. That actually happened to me in one of my favorite places here in Denmark. It's called Factor. Have you heard about Factor? When I first arrived in the country, I thought that it was an art exhibition about depression, but it's actually a supermarket. And the factor that's close to my house is directly opposite a menu. And the contrast cannot be bigger. You go into menu and there's like placater on the walls and it's like a guy pouring a bottle of wine. And it says, "Vul drikker man til vul." And then on the other wall, there's a sign that says, "For inspiration til tapas." What does it say outside Factor? Skinkerstrimler, 7 kroner. It's so filthy in Factor as well. You go into a nice supermarket, you go into Rema 1000, if you were to spit on the floor, somebody would run over and they would clean it up. You could take a shit in Factor and nobody would notice. It's complete chaos inside Factor. It's complete chaos. You go into Aldi, it's very organized. Das ist hier, das ist Brot. Not in Factor, it's fucking Util Reinli. You cannot till Rhine anything. In Factor, it's just madness. Pineapple chainsaw yoga mat. It doesn't make any sense. My favorite part of Factor is the pant machine. You can smell it before you can see it. It's a machine they invented to tell you how good your party was. It's like a big, sticky, shitty glory hole. And on the floor are shitty plastic bags and bottles and cans. And you try those bottles and cans in the machine. My favorite thing on the pant machine is that they have 2 buttons. They have a green button where you get your krona, and then they have a red button, and it gives your money to charity. And there's always a moment where you really want to press the red button, but then you press the green button, and a 3.5 krona flask of Bond comes out of the machine. The products in there, they're so cheap and shitty, I feel like cheap, shitty people grow out of them and start walking around inside. Because everywhere else in Denmark, people are so beautiful. You walk out in the street, everybody's gorgeous. But the ugliest people in the whole world live in Factor. I was in there at the Brull outdealing. That's where they outdeal all of the Brull. And there's a guy standing there, and you know these things for cleaning your ears? He's got one of them hanging out of his ear. These are the people that live in Factor. Oh. I saw so many weird products in there. I saw bolla ikari. I thought that was a sex position. I also saw something called rugbrød, or rye bread. It looks like cardboard, but Danish people are eating it. And I didn't realize what it was when I first came to Denmark. I thought that you guys just had weird bread. So I went home and I used it to make a normal sandwich. That shit was drier than the desert. And that's when I discovered pålæg. You lay it på the rugbrød, and det smager godt. Makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah. That's how it works. Pålæg on top pålægget. Yeah. Det smager godt. DSG. I like that. That's awesome. The only pålæg I don't understand is leverpostej. Because maybe det smager godt, but it has the texture of cat vomit. And it has the color of death. And there is a brand of leverpostej in this country that has a picture of a Viking on the packaging. Now read your history books, because the Vikings went to England and killed people. And raped them and burnt down their houses. Putting a Viking on your leverpostej is like putting Hitler on your peanut butter. I did realize one positive thing about Factor, and that is that it brings together strange groups of people. Because you spend time with people that you would never normally meet. And they're close to you. You see them in the street, you would cross the road, but now you're with them in the queue in Factor. And there was that time when the lady was saying, "Vil du ha bondmel?" to me. And I knew I was in Factor, by the way, because she didn't say, "Vil du ha kvitteringmel?" Ooh. That's when you know you're in Furtex. And I was standing in the queue with the cashier asking me if I wanted the receipt, and I'm looking up and down the queue, and I realized that it brings together strange groups of people. Like the first person in the queue, he was a little boy, and he was very, very dirty. His trousers were all ripped, and his shirt was all stained, and he was holding a packet of flulboller that was bigger than him. And behind him in the queue in Factor was the fattest man in all of Denmark. Across his man boobs, it said, DJ Alligator. And behind him in the queue in Factor was the oldest woman in the whole world. She was extremely old. She was super gammel. She was super duper extra gammel. That's how gammel she was. Because old people in Denmark, they don't die, they just move to Midtjylland. You know there's a place called Morsgård? And there's that swamp in Morsgård, and they found that dude in that swamp. Gravel Man. This woman made Gravel Man look young. That's how gammel she was. She looked like she was made from wet dust that you would just touch her. She would just disappear. And behind her in the queue in Factor was me. The whitest, reddest, gingerest man who ever lived. Like a walking Dannebrog. It's hard being ginger. We represent 2% of the world's population. Only 2%. That's because nobody wants to fuck us. It's true. And you know when you could change your emojis to all different races? There wasn't ginger included originally. We had to wait until 2018 for an update of disabled emojis. That's true. It's hard being ginger. I got a sunburn today and I didn't even go outside. I'm getting a tan right now off of these lights. I get sunburn in the nighttime. I get moonburn. That's how hard my life is. And behind me in the queue in Factor was a woman wearing a full-length burqa. And for a strange moment, I felt like we were all part of a weird pop group. The Factor Five. I want to tell you a true story about how much trust and kindness there is here in Denmark. I have a friend called Simon, who's a German guy. Han kommer fra Tyskland. And he doesn't quite share the same values as the Danish people. There's something you should know about him. He's 50% Snoop Dogg. He smokes weed every other day. And after he smokes weed, he likes to go shoplifting. Now, I didn't know this. And I'm with him in Lidl. If you don't know Lidl, it's kind of like Factor's alcoholic father. And I'm there with him in the wine section, and he takes a very expensive bottle of wine down off the shelf. And I said to him, Simon, that's a very expensive bottle of wine. He said, yeah, I know. And he slips it up the sleeve of his jacket. And then we go to leave. Now, we're in a Lidl in a place called City Vest, which is the ghetto. Yeah. It's pretty hardcore. It's the South Central LA of Denmark. So as we go to leave, we go through the detector machine thingy, and it goes beep, 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 beep. And because it's City Vest, they actually have security. I don't know if you've ever heard it go off in a supermarket in the city, but Danish people don't really know what to do. They're like, who? But here there's a security guard, and he runs over and he stops us. And my friend Simon, he's wearing a backpack. So the security man starts examining that. Meanwhile, Simon slips the bottle of wine out of his sleeve and onto the counter behind the guard. And he opens the backpack, and in there are 5 bottles of wine that Simon earlier stole from Furtex. He waves the bag through the detector thingy. It doesn't go off. We walk in and out of the detector thingy. It doesn't go off. And he says, well, you're free to go. So me and Simon walk out of Lidl, and my heart is pounding. I'm like, dude, we need to get the fuck out of here, okay? We're on the run, basically. And he looks at me and he says, dude, I want a Snickers. Simon, man, no time for Snickers. They're going to call the police. I look over, he's walking into a kiosk opposite Lidl. I chase after him, I find him in the candy section. I'm like, dude, we're on the run. We have to get the fuck out of here. And he says, Snickers or Twix? No time for Snickers or Twix, Simon. We have to get the fuck out of here. I'll have both. So then we go to the cash register lady, and we're standing there and looking out of the window back into Lidl, and we can see the security guy, and he's holding the bottle of wine, and he's looking at us. And my heart starts pounding like this. As we walk out of the kiosk, I'm like a little ginger squirrel. looking for a fucking exit. My eyes are scanning around all over the place. How the fuck are we gonna get out of here? And then I see the security man and he's smiling and he walks up to us, reaches out with the bottle of wine and he said, "Here guys, you forgot this." Danes are very trusting and they're very hygge. I get to meet a lot of them. There are a lot of Danish people around in Denmark. It's surprising. I got to meet quite a famous one of them. I got to meet a rapper called Johnson. Yeah. And me and Halvor were in a pub and he goes like, dude, do you know who that is? Do you know who that is? The only black man in Denmark? I don't know. It's like, dude, he's a famous rapper. We got chatting to Johnson. And it was awesome. He was a really, really nice guy. He starts talking about his career and where he came from. And after a few drinks, he starts being really honest with us. And he says, it was a struggle. I've worked so hard to get where I am. I came from a difficult place. I've gone from rags to riches. I thought it was really inspirational. And when I got home, I was still curious. So I looked Johnson up on Wikipedia. He was born in a place called Svendborg. That's on an island called Fyn. That's the least gangster place in the whole world. In one of the most equal societies in the whole world. There is no rags to riches in Denmark. There is only factor to vertex. Kontanthjælp to topskat. He told me some cool things about the language. He said that there are lots of words that have double meanings. He said the word gift, which can mean married or poison. There's scat, which means darling or tax. And there's ægteskab, which means marriage or genuine cupboard. Yeah. At some point he has a lot of drinks, snacker and a lot of dansk, and he said, jeg skal tage af, men jeg kommer tilbage lige om lidt. And I didn't really know what he said, so I said, no, I'm good, I don't want an omelette, thank you very much. Danish is a very, very cute language. It's so cute. My favorite thing to do is to look up something on Wikipedia and then change it into dansk. It's so good. It's so good. Like the other day, I was looking up fried egg on the English Wikipedia page. I don't know if you've ever looked up something on it. It is way too much information. Fried egg, there's like the history of the fried egg. There's like fried eggs around the world. The future of the fried egg. It's like, whoa. Click it into dansk. Spejlæg. Et æg at afvistet på en stegpan. That's it. Thank you very much, Danish. That's all the information that we needed. It is a very, very cute language. It is. I've got this theory that if you translate something from from English into Danish, it becomes much more hygge. Like a vampire bat. That thing flies through the night sky, through the satanic flags. It lands on you, it bites your neck, and it drinks your blood. In Danish, it does not sound scary at all. Oh nej, en vampyrflagermus. There's a movie called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's about a guy who kills people with a chainsaw. It was released in Denmark as Motor Sounds Massacre. Oh no. Sounds like a romantic comedy. It even works with crimes. There's tax fraud in English. Tax fraud. Sounds awful. In Danish, skattesnyd. That doesn't sound like a crime. That sounds like a little animal that you would see in a forest. Oh nej, det er en lille skattesnyd. Han drikker minimilk. No. Oh nej. It even works with TV programs. I recently bought something called a fjernsyn. Have you heard about a fjernsyn? They're getting very popular. One day they will overtake the radio, I swear. So I bought this. By the way, if you work for DR, I don't have a fjernsyn. So I'm kicking på my fjernsyn, trying to forestå the dansk, and a program came on called Politijagt. Police hunters. Now, it doesn't matter where in the world you come from, you have this television program. They put police cameras on police and they follow them around while they do all of their stuff. And they also show the British version of this in Denmark, which is pretty fucked up. It must be giving you a really terrible impression of Great Britain. Because it's really fucking twisted and violent. Like, I was watching it here in Denmark. I'm watching the English version, and there's a car driving along, and it only has one light at the back. So a police car tries to stop it, and it just starts driving on the wrong side of the road. Then it drives onto the pavement, and it hits somebody. Then it crashes through a fence into somebody's garden, crashes into the house, bursts into flames, all the doors open, 5 guys get out, a bunch of police dogs start chasing them, there's a helicopter in the sky, there's smoke and chaos absolutely everywhere. The Danish version, a little bit more slabby. In the Danish version of Politijagt, police car sees a car with only one light at the back and asks it to stop, and it stopped. I think Danish is a very sexy language. Give me a clap if you agree. Yeah. I like the way some people are clapping and then looking at the people around them. Do you judge me? I think Danish is a very sexy language. Because my favorite thing is beautiful Danish people, and beautiful Danish people snackering dansk, yeah, tak. Because they don't even have to say anything sexual. Every word melts my heart. Jordbær. Honningsnitter. Betonblandingsmaskine. If you're a terrorist organization, don't use terrorists. Use hot Danish people. Hej. Vi vil gerne køre flyvemaskinen. Absolutely, it's in the order. Welcome into the plane. Bring your friends. I want to stay in Denmark, so I am trying to lære some dansk, trying to snakke the dansk. I recently learned how to say hello and how are you. Lytteforståelse. Opgave 1. I learned how to say, would you like to make love? Boller mig op. I learned the phrase, det var hyggelig. It's what you say to a girl after she gives you a blowjob. And I also learned haps, haps, haps. Nu skal vi have snaps. Which roughly translates to, you're about to die. Because, fun fact, I was reading the big book of Danish history. That's where I found out about that DSB thing. And in there, it said that there was a time many years ago when they found out that Denmark was too hyggelig. Yeah, they got a bunch of scientists in and they did some analysis and they said that it's too hyggelig, it's for hyggelig. Yeah. So they talked to the Danish government and they decided, well, we have to reduce the hygge levels through population control. So they invented something called julefrokost. Yeah. Which is basically an annual marathon of food and drink and hygge until Mormor is dead. That's how it works. When Mormor is dead, that's been a successful julefrokost. That's how it works. And there's always that moment during the julefrokost when somebody hands you something called Aalborg Snaps. For some internationals in the room, in your country, they call it Sillet Bang. And after about 45 of these things, there's a moment when you take your sip and you think, oh, it doesn't taste that bad, actually. That's when you know you're completely fucked. I also learned how to say fuck off in Danish. Vores Danmark, det så mal, vi skal passe på. And I also learned all the whole V spørgsmål ord. Danish people's faces, what are you snackering about? You have a lot of these HV question words, you know, like hvem, hvad, hvornår, hvordan. They're kind of like Pokemon, you have to catch them all. My favorite is hvornår, because it sounds so mysterious. Jeg skal i byen. Hvornår? There's so many of them, but nobody really mentions the retarded cousin at the back. Everybody forgets about him. Vabaha. If you want to get good at snackering the dance, you have to go to a sprogcenter. Give me a clap if you go to a sprogcenter. Nice. Some Danish people clapping, it's okay. Takes more than a lifetime to learn this language. I go to a place called Lækre Dansk, where you can lære dansk. Amazing marketing. That is absolutely fantastic. If you want to hear people speaking English, go to Lækre Dansk. It's just confused Spanish exchange students trying to have sex with each other. And I had to start going because there are so many confusing moments in my life with my Danish being so terrible. Like, I thought my friend was calling me an asshole on the phone. He was just telling me to meet him at the town hall. Rådhusplads? Fuck you, man. Sometimes it's very inconvenient. Like, there was a time I was in my friend's kitchen and on the shelf was a pot of tea, but it was spelt T-H-E. And I thought, what the fuck are you doing here? It does get very, very inconvenient. Like, when I'm hanging out with Danish people and they're snackering and I have to join the conversation, I don't really know when to join because I don't know what they're snackering about. Like, one time I'm at a party, Halvor's party, and he's standing there with his friend and they're snackering away. And I think they're trying to create a new Danish person. And I needed to join the conversation. I needed a piece of information, but I didn't know what they were talking about. And actually, Halvor was telling his friend that his grandmother had just died. And then my stupid ginger face appeared and said, what's the Wi-Fi password? Sometimes it's very convenient not to snack at the dansk, though. Like, you're around somebody's house, everybody finishes eating, and then somebody says, hvem skal opvask? I didn't understand that at all. I got a letter in the post recently from Scat. Whole thing was in Danish. I just look at it, I don't need to understand what that says. Put that with the DR letter in the bin. I did realize something very important while I was at Lækre Dansk, though, and that is that Danish is not the official language of Denmark. The official language of Denmark is Danglish. And you hear it and see it and read it all of the time. I was on a bus the other day and I overheard a guy say, "Det var large size, lit random, men det ser awesome all." Perfect. Perfect. Even my Danish teacher, she didn't realize how bad her Danglish was. At one point, she was talking about an exam we had coming up, and she said, "E-examen. Man må bare bruge dansk. Man må ikke bruge engelsk. Det er en no-go." If you think Lækre Dansk is difficult, get ready for Lækre Dansk 3000. Meeting your Danish girlfriend's grandparents. And they live in Midtjylland. It's not Opgave 1 anymore. My ex-girlfriend's grandparents lived in a place called Hammel. Yeah. It's fucking crazy Bunderol country out there. Her grandfather, I was cutting a slice of rugbrød. Her grandfather comes into the room and said, "Er det hestens fødselsdag?" That joke is for like 3 people in the room. If anybody doesn't know Hammel, it's halfway between Aarhus and Viborg. It's 100% of the way to suicide. There is nothing happening in Hammel. It's where happiness goes to die. There is nothing going on in Hammel. And when we were there, her grandmother was showing us the house, and she said, "You see this house? Cost 1 million kroner. In Aarhus, same house would have cost 3 million kroner. Yeah, but you have to live in Hammel. You didn't save 2 million kroner. You live in the core of depression." They didn't even live in Hammel. They actually lived in a satellite town outside of Hammel called Graubella. Grave buttocks. Youngest inhabitant, Gravelavelman. And to get out to Hammel from Aarhus, you have to take one of these long-distance blue buses. You know the ones I'm talking about? Like, they make the 32 look normal. That's how bad they are. And you look through the windows of these blue buses and nobody looks happy, do they? You see more smiles on a death row lineup. And you can't help but judge the people on that bus. You look at them, you have to go to Skanderborg? I was actually, I used to take the bus from a place called Viborgvej, and there's a weird bit at the top of Viborgvej where there's no buildings, really. It's just a sort of really long stretch of road, and you can see all the way up and down, and there was no one around. I'm standing there with the bus timetable trying to work out how to get to Hammel. That's how bad my life was. I'm trying to go to Hammel. And these bus timetable things, it's so confusing. You need a degree in algebra and a horoscope to work out what's going on. It comes every third Tuesday unless you're a Sagittarius. What the fuck is this? No one around, but suddenly from behind my arse appears an old Danish man. And he taps me on the shoulder and he says, "Undskyld, ung dreng. Hvornår er bus til Bjerringbro?" And I said, "Hi, gammel man. Jeg ved det ikke, hvornår bus til Flammelambu er." Because I don't know Flammelambu. I'm not going to Flammelambu. It's probably like Hamels. I'm not going there. But he's really insisting, men hvornår er det? And I'm like, nej, det vil jeg ikke. Forsvind! So I'm trying to read this bus timetable, and suddenly the bus to Hammel appears. So I said, vi ses, hej. Tillykke med fødselsdag, and I get on the blue bus. And I sit down and I think, I really hope that old man gets to where he's going. He's sitting right next to me. And now we are driving out of Aarhus. And here's the thing, it's a weird place, Aarhus, because you drive 5 kilometers out of the city, and there's no city anymore. It doesn't just gradually become less of a city. No, it's just building, field. It's like a video game that just stopped loading at some point. There's nothing there. You're driving out in the middle of nowhere, but there are bus stops. And there are beautiful Danish people that just randomly get up, push the bell, and get off of there in the middle of nowhere. And we're driving out through this place. Civilization disappeared a long time ago. You know, some of these houses don't have electricity. It's crazy. And on the way to Hammel, you go through a place called Mundelstrup. Now, here's the thing, Aarhus. I've been through Mundelstrup a lot, and there is one house, and I've looked through the windows of that house, and there is one woman living there. One woman! That means that when Inger Louisa goes to Netto, the population of Mundelstrup drops to 0. We're driving out further and further in the middle of nowhere, and he's still snackering on at me about Bjerringbro. And I'm just pretending I know what he's saying. Like earlier, he was snackering langsom, but you internationals, you know these Danes, they snacker langsom, and then hurdy. You have no idea. I'm just, yeah, det gør vi. Går ikke det ind, det brænder, yeah. It's driving out in the middle of nowhere. At one point, we go through a place called Volbu. Violent city. And there's a sign when you go in that says Volbu, and then there's a bus stop, and then there's another sign that says Volbu, but this time it's got a line going through it. Not all the bus can be in Volbu at the same time. We're further and further from civilization, there's nothing around, and that's when he taps me on the shoulder. He says, vi Bjerringbro nu? And I said, absolutely, probably. And the just opened the doors and got out in the middle of a field. And I think he fell into a swamp. I'm not sure what happened to him. So many traditions here in Denmark. There's something called frisind, free-spiritedness. That's pretty cool. It's a lot about having an open mind, but to me, the way it appears is that Danish people don't mind being naked in front of each other. They don't. I went to this island called Anholt. That means arrested. Anholt makes Hammel look like Las Vegas. There is nothing going on Anholt. It's like one of these fake North Korean cities that they build just to make it look like people live there. Like some of the buildings are just one wall and there's just cardboard people having hygge. There are 150 people who live on Anholt, and you meet all of them in the first 30 seconds that you are there. There's nothing, they all meet you at the ferry. Oh my God, new people, thank God. And the weird thing about that is that they all have jobs and positions on the island, but then when you go to the beach, you see them naked. It's really weird. You're like, oh look, there's Meta, and he's like, hi, just her patter bouncing around. You look into the sea, oh, there's Matthias, the fucking school teacher, and he's there with his stadion platter. Hi. The weirdest experience I've had of freezing actually happened to me in fitness world. I went to the showers to wash myself, and I was expecting cubicles. That's what it's like in Great Britain. You just go in and there's little cubicles, compartments. You go in with a towel wrapped around you. You've got privacy. Not in fucking Denmark. You walk in just a wide open area. It's like being in prison. And I was not expecting this. As I turn the corner and walk in, there's just one guy standing there just washing his balls. Just right in front of me. I was like, whoa, that is a lot of information. And then I look just next to him and there's another guy also washing his balls. And I thought to myself, wow, okay, this is just free-spiritedness. So I started washing my balls. And we started washing our balls together. And it made a vortex. And Rasmus Paludan came out of it. I'll tell you a joke. What do you call a raccoon that is washing the dishes? Opvaskebjørn. That joke can only work in Danish because Danish is an amazing language. You can take different words and you can click them all together and you can make new words. Like, you want to make the word for raccoon, you take the word vasker and the word bjørn, and you have vaskebjørn. That's so awesome. Like the flesh of a fruit in Danish. You take frugt and you take kul. Yeah, fruit meat, yeah. A dictionary in Danish, ordbog. Word book, yeah. But don't all books have words? Word book. You want to make the word for parliament in Danish? Folker, peoples, ting, thing. And you have people's thing. That's awesome. And here's the thing, most of the time, this Lego language makes a lot of sense. You take these different words, click, 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 you put them together, you make new awesome words. Most of the time, it makes a lot of sense. Like pajamas in Danish, nat toy. Night clothes, yeah. And I swear to you, Aarhus, when you go to bed tonight and you put on your night clothes, it will make sense. But then sometimes it really doesn't make sense. Like the insect, a cricket in Danish, forkylling. Sheep chicken. What? I imagine that the inventor of the Danish language was a genius, but he was also a bit of a mental patient. Because either it makes 100% complete sense or it's completely fucking bananas. There's no in between. Never. I was actually reading that big book of Danish history, the one about DSB, and I found in there that the origins of the Danish language is actually a guy called Gorm. Yeah, he's like a super ægte Gammel Dansk. You know the guy from the Fisk bottle? Like the guy with the skeg? That's him. That's Gorm. And he actually came out of the sea in a wheelchair onto the beach of Denmark. It's completely true. Onto the beaches of Western Jutland. He came out of the sea in Esbjerg to tell the world about the Danish language. And this was back in the day, the Viking villagers from the local towns, they came down to the beach to meet Gorm. And they said to him, dude, we've heard so much about your Lego language. Can you give us some examples? And Gorm looked into the grey skies of Denmark and he said, Samarbejder. Gorm, you're a fucking genius. Vi arbejder sammen. Vi samarbejder. I can good like it. I'm going to put that in the word book. That's fantastic. Can you give us another example? Spejl. Egg. Spejl egg? Mirror eggs? What are you snackering about? Well, you are Gorm, the inventor of the Danish language, so I'm going to have to write it down. People will be saying that forever. Can you give us another example? Gorm looked into the grey skies of Denmark and he said, Over morgen. Dude, you're a fucking genius. The over tomorrow. In English, they have to say the day after tomorrow. Fuck that shit i overmorgen. We're gonna save so much time, Gorm. You're a fucking genius. Do you have any other examples? And he looked into the grey skies and he said, brystvorter. Brystvorter? Breast warts. Dude, that's super ulegger. You just ruined nipples for everybody. Scam labor. Okay, Gorm, back in the fucking sea. My favourite thing about the Danish language is how specific it is. Like a refrigerator in Danish, køleskab, cold cupboard. And when you open it, you go, fuck, Danish, you know, that is a cold cupboard. Morgenmad, morning food. And when you're wearing your night clothes and eating your morning food, things somehow make sense. I wanted to cut up a roasted chicken. I used fjerkræ sax. Feather creature scissors. That's very specific. Honey, I need to cut a feather creature. Well, use the feather creature scissors. Sometimes it's so specific. I was talking to my friend the other day. I had to translate the word for oxygen. I said, how do you translate oxygen into Danish? And Halvor turned to me and he said, well, actually, you can say oxygen, you can say luft, but if you're having an informal conversation, you can say ilt. What? That's how specific the Danish language is, that they changed the word for oxygen for informal conversations about oxygen. How many informal conversations about oxygen are you guys having? That it needs a new word. So specific. But sometimes the Danish language is very unspecific. And the Danish language doesn't give a fuck about animals. It has a nabe, nabedyr. It's lazy, domdyr. What's that smell? Stinkdyr. What about all of these animals over here? What should we call them? Pattedyr. They've all got breasts. Doesn't give a fuck about animals. Prawns and shrimps. In Danish, rejer. Mussels and clams and scallops. Muslinger. A tortoise and a turtle. Two different animals that live in two different places. Skildpadder. An octopus and a squid. Two different species. Fuck it, blæksprutter. There's even an animal here in Denmark called a firbane. A forelegs. That's true. Let that thought detonate in your mind. There's a real animal here in Denmark called a forelegs. That's fucking lazy. And they must have named that one first. Imagine that here in Denmark, somewhere in Nordjylland, there's a place called the Dansk Dyrnavnafdeling. It's the government department of the Folketing that names all of the animals. And the guy that works there is definitely called Brian. And they bring him in because they had to fire the last guy. Brian, we had to get rid of the last guy because he came up with beldedyr, forkylling, and vampyrflagermus. Now, what they don't know is that Brian doesn't want to be there. He's got a bit of a tummerman. He's got a hangover because he's been julefrokosting. He's been introduced to something called Gammel Dansk. If you don't know, Gammel Dansk is what you use to clean car engines. So he's feeling a little bit ixogot. Right, all right, Brian, we're going to name the animals. What are you going to call that one then? Oh, fuck. 4 legs. You're going to call it a vierbeen? A 4 legs. Brian, a lot of the animals have 4 legs. I don't care. I want to go home. I want to watch Politijagt. 4 legs. I'll put it under belt animal. All right, Brian, what are you going to call that one then? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... Tusenbane? Aarhus, you've been so much fun. Thank you so much for this evening. Thank you very, very much. You guys have been absolutely awesome. You made the show awesome. Thank you so much. Lots of love. Thank you ever so much, Aarhus.
Se nu hvor vi hygge. Vi diskuterer et navn til et nytte. Det giver vi et vende.